So it's time for movie reviews on Pure 24/7 Radio. I'm Nathan Thomas, and I'm delighted to be here with Andy Godfrey, film critic and movie reviewer extraordinaire.
Oh, I like the sound of that, Nathan. You can introduce me like that every week if you want.
All right, well, I suppose I'll have to.
It's great to be here. Thank you. And hello to everyone listening. We've got a couple of films to review that are out in cinemas.
Okay.
I mentioned there are actually four films coming out today.
Wow.
So hopefully I'm going to get to see them all during the coming week so we can report about them next week.
Okay.
Okay. And then there are some really good films to watch at home. And I'm going to mention in connection with one of them, somebody who was a great friend of ours. So that'll come.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start with the two that are out in cinemas. We'll mention the first one because I thought it was really good. Some people might not like it because it's a bit gory. A film called Companion. So we all know these days that many people are meeting online, the swiping left and right and all the rest of it. And this is how people are meeting their partners. This film, Companion, is set in the very near future where we've got things like driverless cars are commonplace on the roads and where you can order a robot to the specific size and specification of your choice, the specific sex of your choice, and you can program that robot to be your companion. You can actually program this robot to fall in love with you. And this is why the film's called Companion. So we start off, we're in a car with two people, a lady and gentleman. They're driving to visit some friends for the weekend out in the countryside. And I don't want to give away too much because I don't know about you, I hate trailers that give away too much. The trailer for this film, Nathan, was rubbish. The trailer for this film actually showed the entire plot. There was almost no need to go and see the film because the trailer was so comprehensive. The trailer was, I don't know who puts trailers together, but they don't do a very good job these days. They never have done actually. But this trailer was rubbish. Anyway, these two people, young man, young lady, arrive at their friend's country mansion and things begin to go very badly. It turns out there's some bad blood between these so-called friends. And in an effort to show how much one person is loved, the robot, because I've already said it involves robots, actually takes revenge on the other people by killing them. So this is kind of like, in my written review, I called it the Stepford Wives, and older listeners will remember the Stepford Wives. The Stepford Wives was a film in the early 70s, which I regard as a classic, one of my favourites of all time. And what happens in the Stepford Wives, there's this little community in rural America called Stepford. All the women are perfect. All the women are absolutely beautiful. They are perfect. They are subservient to their husbands. They do exactly what they're told when their kitchens are spotless. Their houses are clean. They spend all day cleaning and everything else. And it turns out that the men in the men's association in the village are replacing their wives with android replicas. And their wives have actually been killed. It's a really, really creepy film. The last scene of the film, genuinely, but it is a classic. It was made in 1972. It doesn't turn up on TV very often. I've got a DVD of it. So this film is like the Stepford Wives meets Terminator. Okay, we all know about Terminator, the robot that came back to wreak revenge. So it's a very gory film, but I loved it. I mean, if you're after a piece of out and out science fiction, Companion is great. The other film that I've seen this week, Nathan, is a film, and this again is long before you were born, talking of the early 70s. It's a film called September 5. Now, back in the 1972 Olympics, you may know the history. The 1972 Olympics were held in Munich, and there's a Palestinian terrorist group called Black Sunday invaded the Olympic Village and killed 11 members of the Israeli Olympic team. And the Olympics came to a standstill because of this. This was the major news story. I vaguely remember it being reported on the news. I would have been about 10. But this actually happened. 11 members of the Israeli Olympic team were killed in the Olympic Village by this Palestinian terrorist group. Okay. Steven Spielberg made a film about it in 2005 because what happened was the Israeli government sent out a crack team, an SAS-like team of people to hunt down the killers after this happened. Steven Spielberg made a film called Munich, which is a really good hard-hitting drama. Now, this film, we don't actually see the terrorists. We don't see the killings. But nearby, obviously in the Olympic Village, there were lots of TV studios covering the Olympics. And this was the first time the Olympics had been transmitted live. Okay, so we're even, believe it or not, and they were transmitting via satellite to America. And this TV news team, who were there to cover sport, they heard the gunshots. So this film's based on a true story. They heard the gunshots. And the question then became, do we show this on the news? And what if our cameras capture somebody actually being killed? What's the moral obligation? Do we show this on the news or not? How far do we go in reporting this? Plus, we're sports reporters. We're not news reporters. But they decided they wanted to cover the story. At one point, an executive comes in and he says, oh, no, ABC, CBS in America are going to take over the reporting of this story. And the sports director guy says, hang on a minute, they're in America. This is happening 500 yards away. Let us do the job of reporting it, even though we're not the news team, we're the sports team. It's happening on our doorstep, for Pete's sake. So this is a behind the scenes, fly on the wall look at what happened when the world got the news of this dreadful, dreadful event from the point of view of the people who broadcast it. I found it absolutely, I think, if I'm honest, it's my favourite film of the year so far. It's really hard hitting. It's really well done. Lots of TV screens, lots of people running. I love films with, moral dilemmas. What do we show? What don't we show? I love people running around. I love the chaos of it all. And it really was chaos. I love the arguments that ensued. Behind the scenes things about films and TV fascinate me, because I'd love to be in a control box one day or behind the scenes watching a film being made. I've never been on a film set. I've been to film sets, but I've never been on a film set. So I really thought this was really good. And I would thoroughly recommend it. It's been getting rave reviews. And I gave it 10 out of 10 because it really is this intimate, detailed look at the TV people saying, okay, there's a terrorist attack happening 500 yards away. What do we show? What don't we show? How do we report this? And we're not really news reporters. We're sports people anyway. So I thought it was fascinating. One or two people have said, oh, it's a straightforward thriller. But by and large, it's got really, really positive reviews. It's called September 5 because that was the date, obviously, when it happened, but back in 1972. And I would say to people, please go see it. It's a really, really good film. Really well made. As I say, I think it's my favourite film of the year so far. And it gives a real insight into what was happening. We see, the Gaza war and we see everything else on our TV screens. Very often, I think we don't give enough thought to the people who have to make the decisions as to what we see on our TV screens and what we don't. And this gives you a little bit of an insight into some dilemmas as well as, let's capture this, the eagerness to capture it. But at the same time, we're going to shock the world with this. We are going to be responsible for breaking this news to the world. And one of the reporters had actually heard the gunshots. So September 5, I would really recommend. So those are the two that I've seen at the cinema this week, Nathan. And, one's a science fiction, epic, gory, shoot 'em up type thing, Stepford Wives meets Terminator. But the other is this historical drama. And if you want a really good double bill, dig out Munich. I think you'll find it, streaming somewhere. So September 5 at the cinema to see what was going on. Munich, Steven Spielberg's film, to see the aftermath. And Spielberg's film is very good. There were a number of new films out today. So I just wanted to give people a heads up as to what they are. I haven't seen any of these, but I will see them by next week, hopefully. And so we can talk about them. So the first one, it's only getting evening screenings, okay? It's only on in the evening as far as I can tell. And it's certainly on tonight in cinemas, is Becoming Led Zeppelin. So I don't know if you play any Led Zeppelin on Pure.
Love it, yeah.
This is the story of the band. This is a documentary about how the band got together and about their rise to fame. So Becoming Led Zeppelin is shown in cinemas as from today. It's on, I think, in most cinemas in the evening, sort of around about 8 o'clock from looking at the time schedules and the schedules. But I mean, I think it'll be riveting. I think it'll be really interesting. And so Becoming Led Zeppelin is on. We've then got a film called Bring Them Down, which is an Irish thriller set in rural Ireland about two warring families. There was a film that came out a few years ago with a similar sort of theme. This stars Cole Meany and Barry Keoghan and Christopher Abbott, and it's described as a hard-hitting drama about two families warring in rural Ireland over some land and really going at it and going for each other with real hatred. So Bring Them Down. If you see that advertised, that is what that's about. And then One for All the Family, because we've got to have stuff in the family, a family-run station. So there was a new animated film coming out today, which is called Dogman. Okay, and this is a cartoon. It stars Billy Boyd and Isla Fisher, and actually Ricky Gervais is in this as well. And basically, what happens? A policeman has an accident and merges with his dog. It's a fantasy. It's an animated fantasy. A faithful police dog and his human police owner are injured together and their personalities merge. And the film is called, unsurprisingly, Dogman. And they go off to solve a crime, apparently. So this is a Scooby. The animation looks to me from the trailer very sort of much like along the lines of Hanna-Barbera, Scooby-Doo type animation. It's meant to be great fun. It is a U certificate. So you could take the baby, you could take grandma, you take the kids. If you're looking for a treat at the cinema, Dogman, I've seen the trailer, I haven't seen the film. It looks quite fun. It looks fun, in the sort of very much a Scooby-Doo kind of way, for those who remember Scooby-Doo. So that's out today. Also out today is a film called Love Hurts. Now, I'm really interested to see this one because, as you know, I'm a big fan of the Indiana Jones films. And Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom had a little boy called Short Round, who was played by, let me get this right, who was played by, I can never get his name right, Ki Hai Wan. Okay, it was a little boy. Well, he's now grown up, obviously, because Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was back in the 80s. He's now grown up and he's starring for the first time since Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom in a film. So that's been a long wait for him. This is a violent revenge thriller. So if anybody remembers a film called Nobody, a few years ago, there was a film called Nobody about an ordinary everyday guy. We see him jogging, we see him putting the bins out, we see him cooking dinner for his kids, doing the school run. And one day some thieves break into his home and he gets so rolled up that this ordinary everyday guy goes after the thieves. Turns out he used to work for the SAS. Okay, so it became a violent crime thriller. This is along similar lines. This is from the same producers. Okay, it's called Love Hurts. But it will be interesting to see Ki Hu Wan back in the film after all those years after Temple of Doom. So another revenge thriller. I'm starting to sense a trend here, Nathan. We got two families rowing in Northern Ireland. We got a revenge thriller there. The other one that's out today, and I'm quite looking forward to this one as well, particularly from an international perspective. There's a film coming out today called The Seed of the Sacred Fig. The Seed of the Sacred Fig. Now, this is set in Tehran, and it's about a judge investigating political unrest who then vanishes, and his wife and daughter and others are trying to find him. So that's an international thriller. And again, I'm looking forward to it because I love to see other cultures portrayed on screen. You can learn something about other cultures, even in the fantasy world of Hollywood, And so those are the four films that hopefully we'll report on some of those next week. The Seed of the Sacred Fig, set in Iran, about a judge who goes missing. Love Hurts, a kind of revenge thriller. Dogman, a Scooby-Doo animated type film, where the policeman and his police dog merge together to start solving crimes. Bring Them Down, two families in rural Ireland fighting over some land and becoming Led Zeppelin. So those are the ones that are out today. And if those pique anybody's fancy, let me know. If you go and see them, let us know, because we'd love to hear from you. Can you just remind people perhaps of how they could do that, Nathan?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you've got any thoughts on some of these films, perhaps you've heard Andy Godfrey's review and you either agree with it wholeheartedly or perhaps think, actually, no, I disagree with that. That's what film review is all about. We all have our own personal thoughts. So you can let us know. Email hello@pure247radio.org and we'll discuss them in the next interview. But thanks, Andy. Some good films there.
Yeah. Should we do a few to watch at home?
Yes,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
So now I said I was going to mention a friend of ours. Okay. So the late, great Steve Legg. Steve, as we know, died of cancer, and he had all sorts of DNA tests when he was suffering. One of those tests, and Steve dined out on this every single time he could. One of those tests revealed that Steve was very, very, very distantly related to Elvis Presley. And Steve would talk about Steve. If you got him on the subject, and it wasn't hard not to get him on the subject, Steve would say, "Oh yes, great, great Uncle Elvis." You know, don't we miss Steve? Love him dearly, miss him every day. But the reason I mentioned Steve's very, very, very tenuous connection to Elvis, which he said, of course, was bona fide, no doubt. Elvis was my great, great, great uncle, whatever. Is because the film Elvis is now new on Netflix. It's been available online for some time, but it's now new on Netflix. So this is a Baz Luhrmann film. Baz Luhrmann makes extravagant musicals. So my favourite Baz Luhrmann film is Moulin Rouge with Nicole Kidman. We talked about her the other week. Elvis tells the story of Elvis Presley. It also tells the story of his manager, played by Tom Hanks, who was known as the Colonel. He wasn't a colonel, he was a big con man. And he actually cheated on Elvis and was taking a lot of Elvis's profits into his own bank account. He died a lonely old man, but he was Elvis's manager. And he and Elvis had an on-off relationship. Tom Hanks plays him. It's a really great film. It's a really great film. It's full of split screen. So there's one point where we see Elvis singing one song, and we see him singing it at the top left-hand corner of the screen as a teenager. We see him singing it as a young man. We see him singing it as an older man. We see him singing it as he's sort of dying. And we've got a four-way split screen. And this is the kind of thing that Baz Luhrmann does, this Australian director, with his movies. So I wanted to mention that. Gave me any chance to talk about Steve is a good one, as you know. And Elvis is now on Netflix, and it really is worth watching. Austin Butler plays Netflix. I was very fortunate. I was at a press screening. I saw it 3 months before anybody else did, along with a load of journalists, and we all absolutely loved it. So it's a great film, but it's now new. Although it's been out for a while, it's to stream. It's now new on Netflix. On the BBC iPlayer, because I always like to pick up on something on the BBC iPlayer, there is a film, and we talked about Northern Ireland a minute ago, Rural Ireland. There's a film called Belfast. Now, this won some Oscars a few years ago. It's a black and white film, and it's director and actor Kenneth Branagh showing us his childhood growing up in the midst of the Troubles in Belfast. Okay, so he's quite happy little kid going to school, living at home with mum, dad and granny, and they're having a great time. Granny's played by Judi Dench. They're having a lovely little life, and then suddenly the IRA come along, the British come in, there's fighting in the street, there's bombs going off everywhere at the height of the trouble. So it's a really, really good film. It's a really revealing film. It's on the BBC iPlayer new this week, and I really wanted to mention it because I think that it's one of those films that people will enjoy more than they think they're going to. A film about the Troubles in Northern Ireland? No way, Actually, it's an uplifting film. It's a really good watch, and it's well directed. Kenneth Branagh is a great director anyway, but it's really well made. It's really worth seeing. So that's Belfast, black and white film on the iPlayer. And then just one more to watch at home, which is now widely available. And I had to talk about this really, because when we did the top 10 of the year for 2024, this was in my top 10. So now widely available to watch at home is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. So we're in an apocalyptic world in the future, gangs roaming the deserted earth, the bruised and scorched earth, looking for petrol, fighting each other. But this is a really exciting, genuinely exciting, thrilling, spectacular action film. So I would say, if you like that kind of thing, go and watch it. So again, something for everybody, from cartoons to musicals to historical dramas, something for everybody there. And those would be my three to watch at home: Elvis, Belfast, and Mad Max.
Excellent. Thanks so
There we
much,
go.
Andy.
That's
Well,
right.
it's plenty for everyone, it seems.
Yes, I mean, there really is. And as I say, we'll report back on some of those other films next week. I think the Led Zeppelin documentary will be interesting. You may struggle to catch it because, as I say, I think it's only showing in cinemas. It's got a very limited run. Hopefully, Dogman will be a fun film. Hopefully it will be one of those films that it won't be an animation that's saying, oh, this is corny, this is poor, this is so obvious, and the other films as well. So really worth watching. But there's still some really good films out in the cinema. But the best film in cinemas at the moment is September 5. This behind the scenes look. We're inside a TV studio at the Olympics. Well, terrorists attacking the Olympic Village 500 yards away. What do we show? What don't we show? How do we show it? How do we cover it?
Yeah.
And the acting in that is superb. You almost think you're watching the real people. You could believe you're watching the real people. And it's only 93 minutes long. Some films these days go on for more than 2 hours. You know, we had the Brutalist last week, which goes on for 3.5 hours. This was really exciting, comfortably. I could have sat there longer, and I always think that's a good sign of a film. If when it ends, you kind of go, I wanted that to go on a bit longer. You know,
Yeah, that
to
is a
me,
good
that's
sign.
a sign of a good film.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's nice not to. Well, we've talked about a rock biopic, of course, with Elvis. I'm just going to say it's nice not to talk about a rock biopic, but we have.
Yeah,
So we
and
can add Elvis to the list.
I suppose Led Zeppelin's that film about Led Zeppelin is a kind of biopic, isn't it?
It is really, yeah. It's more of a documentary.
Oh, okay.
Okay, behind the scenes documentary about their rise to fame was incredible. And I've been reading up about it, and they had to overcome some tremendous opposition, some tremendous odds to get their music made. But I mean, I quite like Led Zeppelin. I'm not really into that kind of music totally, but I do like a bit of Led Zeppelin. And of
Yeah.
course, they provided the theme for a while for Top of the Pops. When I was growing up, one of their tracks was the theme for Top of the Pops. So I did know one of their theme tunes quite well because I used to watch Top of the Pops as a teenager regularly.
Yeah. Well,
But that's great.
What's that? Sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah, so no, that's really interesting. I mean, Led Zeppelin, we do play quite a bit of Led Zeppelin on our station, and I mean, I wouldn't say all of it's my cup of tea, but some of it's really, really good. And
Yeah.
Robert Plant, of course, has done some solo work as well.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't imagine it's long before that film will be available streaming. I think it'll probably get a short cinema run and then go on something like Sky Documentaries or
Okay.
I think possibly Prime, Amazon Prime, but it won't be too long before. And if you don't catch it, just wait a little bit. I mean, these days films come out on streaming while they're still in cinemas.
Yeah.
I think I've said to you before, but years ago when I was growing up, you know, we went to see a film at the cinema and we had to wait at least 2 years before we could see it again. When it came on TV, because there was no videos, there was no DVDs, no Blu-rays, and we had to wait. And very often when it would come on TV, it would be cut, it would be edited for TV. It would be a TV version of whatever it was we'd seen. But you didn't remember it because 2 years had gone by, you know. But I'm dating myself here, but that's the way it used to be. And it does annoy me a little bit when I see adverts, particularly on Sky, when they say, see this film while it's still at the cinema. That doesn't help cinemas. That really doesn't help cinemas, you know. So, but no rant this week either. Nothing particularly bad this week.
No, that's good.
So that's a blessing as well.
Yeah.
But thank you, Nathan. Yeah, I hope people enjoy those reviews.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Andy. Absolute privilege to hear from you again. I look forward to speaking again soon.
My pleasure. God bless you and God bless Pierre.